Well, it's fitting that the oldest and largest law firm in River Falls will introduce their sponsor, the oldest and largest city administrator. Definitely the largest. Well, thanks everybody. I appreciate being able to come here today. As Chris mentioned, we have a short video today to look back a little bit on 2018, and then I'm happy to reflect what I think we can look forward to in 2019. So I'm happy to be surrounded by a lot of faces I know, some faces I don't. I'll hang around afterwards if people want to ask individual questions, and if I haven't had a chance to meet you, I'd appreciate the opportunity to do that. So, Chris, thank you for, where did Chris go? I see Councilmember Bierstadt got out of spitting range here. That was a smart move. Sorry, Nick. Your parents are really happy that you have a job and you're out of the house. Everything else is gravy. So you can't acknowledge your bosses enough. That's a hint to all of you new professionals out there. So I do want to thank the council again for the opportunity for me to have this job and be able to come to work every day and work for the city. I really do appreciate that. Mr. Morissette, Mr. Gagne, Mr. Downing, Mr. Bierstadt, and the mayor, I appreciate all of your support, and I would love to give them another round of applause. You know, it's been another year of growth and progress, and the council has made a lot of thoughtful contributions. As you'll hear in the video, we went back to basics a little bit this year, reviewed our strategic plan and vision, looked at what it is at the core that the city wants to do. You know, that collective vision that they help provide really gets us on that steady course, and then I'm able to work with some really talented folks to take us down that path, including the community. And it does make us trendsetters for good governance and mindful stewardship. You know, despite Chris and I's disagreement over the location of the carnival for River Falls Days, I did not cancel my State of the City speech. So here we are. River Falls can be a bubble of normal governance while everything else is going on around us. So let's take a look back at 2018, a year of vision and values. Well, it's all downhill from here, so now it's time to lower the expectations. And what a wonderful video. I really, it's probably good that I wasn't watching it because it invokes a little more emotional response from some of us at the city that might for you seeing it the first time. But it's something we're really proud of. All this work was done in-house. Josie, our media intern from WRF, and the staff, and you heard the smooth stylings of John Smits there on the voice, and Mary, thank you for all your help with that. I invite you, this will be out on the city's YouTube channel and its homepage. I'd invite you to share it with those that haven't had a chance to be here. It's a great opportunity to help build some positive feelings amongst new staff or other folks that are coming into town and want to learn a little bit about what it is that city government can do. At this point, I'd like to, before I start my remarks, I'd just like to, I know there's a number of city staff here, just appreciate if you guys could quick stand, or if you can't get up on your chair, maybe raise your hand. Appreciate all of you coming today and all the work that you did to help us be successful in 2018. As you saw at the end of the video, that was something that staff added without me knowing about, and I really appreciated that the staff showing the values cards. I appreciate that we're really trying to put those values into practice and into our lives every day with the city. And so I want to thank the staff for doing that every day, for going that extra mile. I'm really lucky to be working alongside such talented, dedicated, and innovative people. Now, staff innovations exemplify our value of embracing change and asking ourselves not only why, but why not. When we're confronted with new opportunities, issues, and challenges, we want those two questions to be in mind. And I want to share just one example of that with you this morning. This summer, Bill Swenson, an operator at the wastewater plant, figured he could save the city $30,000 when he decided to perform a self-repair. Now, self-repairs may seem like, well, that's fine. You just get a wrench and buy a part of Ace Hardware and away you go. But on a 25-foot long, 24-inch round rotor that's not in the nicest of location at the wastewater plant, that's not always an easy thing for staff to do. It's easier to just order a brand new part and have it installed by somebody else. Bill said, you know what, why not? He ordered the giant pipe from a supplier. He figured out how to remove hundreds of bolts and blades, and with a fellow operator, Jake DeMent, he got the job done. And again, Bill just had simply asked himself, why not? So we really appreciate that that's the kind of attitude you have in your city staff and the culture that we're trying to build here in the organization. And that's just one example. I could name a number of them. Now, as a result of a work culture that lives its values, invites innovation and embraces change, people really do want to work for the city of River Falls. In 2018, we had over 685 applications. We conducted 115 interviews, all in order to welcome 21 new hires to the city. And like many of your businesses, we have a number of folks that are ready to retire or have been retiring over time, and so it's a challenge for us to find good people to replace them. And we've been really successful in doing that, and I appreciate that it's really a place that people want to live in, and all of the work that you're doing in the community to build that helps us in the recruitment efforts. In 2018, we did have to say goodbye to several longtime employees. I do just want to mention our gratitude to Bob Schwallen, Terry Kuzlik, Nancy Miller, and Officer Greg Lotzi. Those 4 employees had worked for almost 125 years for the city. So that's the kind of succession planning we're doing now at the city, is trying to replace 124 years of experience, sometimes all in the same month or within a couple months of each other. And perhaps, like I said, it's a challenge that you're seeing out in your businesses also. But we are working hard. I want you to know that we're planning ahead, and we're trying to get a good grasp of what our staffing is going to look like over the next few years, and we're trying to do good succession planning in order to continue the high expectations that the community has for service. We don't get a break or kind of a rookie card to use when we get a new person in, so we appreciate that people have been able to come into our organization and hit the ground running. We're using a lot of new technology to fuel that innovation across city departments. We use a lot of acronyms like you may. Our SCADA, or Supervisory Control and Data System for water and wastewater, is fully operational now. That essentially allows the operators to remotely operate the system, as you can imagine, to provide clean, fresh water and take care of the waste in a city of this, even a city of this size. Requires a number of pumps and equipment and wells and towers and things that have to be monitored on a regular basis. Not only does investment in that technology allow us to do a better job of monitoring it, it also helps us get ahead of problems or be proactive in things, because those kind of systems really can give us feedback that we didn't have before, that can allow us to avoid problems before they even occur. And those are things that we hope the citizens and the businesses never even know is there. It's really something in the background that's supposed to help us do our job better, and really get ahead, like I said, ahead of those problems, and correct those things in real time. We also are going to invest in AMI, which is advanced metering infrastructure. Appreciate that many of your businesses have been early adopters. We like to trial things. We don't like to be on the bleeding edge of things in the city of River Falls. We are often at the bleeding edge, but we'd like to know a little bit about what we're getting ourselves into before we roll it out to all of our customers. Many of your businesses agreed to test those meters. We had city employees that tested the residential side of things over the last year, and we're going to be fully implementing that over the next 3 years. And really what that does is it gives us the opportunity to provide personalized information to all of our customers. We have a number of commercial industrial customers that are already using that. more accurate and more timely data to help correct things in their operations that are saving them money, or avoiding them spending money on things that they otherwise would when it comes to water or electricity. And that same information is going to be available to residents. And again, what that system does is it allows us to have a more timely response, especially in the area of electrical outages. It's going to allow those employees, before they even are deployed in the field, to know what they're going to see when they get in the field, sometimes allowing them to correct or switch things remotely before they get to that site. And that will allow us to be able to provide better information to people about the duration of outages, and frankly allow us to avoid some of those outages in the first place with that new information. I do appreciate the fact that we live in a community where the council and staff embrace change. So it's easy for me to say that constantly, and they're probably tired of hearing that. But it is a value that we need to live in order to be successful, in my opinion, as a city. And so council and staff have really embraced all of these planned things kind of head on. We want to serve the public in the most efficient way possible, and we think it's unlikely that we'll be able to do that just by doing the same things we did yesterday. It also means being flexible and striking while the iron is hot. So we spend a lot of time planning and being proactive, and we did all the things that you should do when you're planning a new police station, looking at space needs and trying to determine what the best time is and what your cost benefit of staying in the existing building is. And despite all of that, when an opportunity arises, you just have to decide that we have to go forward because it's in the best interest of the city. And that essentially is what happened with the Rivertown Media's building being available. That building had been available over time. I had taken a number of businesses, maybe some of you, and they're trying to convince you to locate your business in that building. And it just dawned on us after going through many of the steps in the planning that really was going to be a good fit for us. And that takes what would have been a $10 to $12 million new construction project, and it probably allows us to be in the building that matches the space needs of the community's policing department 3 years ahead of time, and for about $4 million. So those are the kind of things that we need to do when we're embracing change also. And then we're always open to crazy ideas, or what may seem like a crazy idea. We said, sure, school district, let's put the Montessori in there for a year. You have a space needs. We have some space. Let's figure out how to make this work. So we're happy to be able to do that in the interim and work with one of our partners, and it benefits the community as well. Now, who would have thought that the need for a new fence at the former landfill would turn into what it did? So there again, all of our diligent planning was, we need a new fence, right? So we timed it out and we said, all right, the year of new fence in landfill is going to be 2018, and then the ideas in amongst staff and some of the council members as well, we still need a dog park, and so somehow those two things have kind of come together. I wouldn't say somehow, it's come together with a lot of work and creativity on the staff's part, basically to get a new dog park, which I don't think anybody predicted would be as successful as what it is. I don't believe you can get a parking space there 90% of the time. It's kind of crazy. But it was just a fence project. So just taking that extra step by staff helped us do that with very little investment above what we had already planned with the fence, and I think it's a good amenity for the community. Now at that end of town also, you'll see lots of things going on at Glen Park. The storm shelter building itself is already there, and so if you can imagine, if you have a chance to go take a look, I'd encourage you to do so. That's about 40% of the final pavilion. So if you look at the shelter walls that are up now, there's kind of a lobby-ish connection between that and then another structure that's not tornado-proof, which would be the pavilion. So that is I really think it's a gift to ourselves as a community, that people looked at Glen Park and said, you know, we love Glen Park, but it's getting a little tired. It's been a little overused. Let's get in there and see what we can do. So this is the year that will come to fruition, and I think people will be really proud, and it will fit with what people have in mind for what Glen Park should be. That's including putting a new line in the pool, a splash pad, rearranging some of the parking in that park, removing some of the traffic, vehicle traffic from that park to make it more friendly to just kind of casual or passive use walkers and things like that. And I think that's going to really fit with what people have in mind for their community. You know, other ambitious plans are underway. We're acquiring property now for the North Sewer Interceptor. What that will do is allow us to have one giant gravity sewer system all the way from the river, where we now have a lift station, all the way to the sewer plant. So that at its full will serve about 40% of the community. So that's a major project that nobody knows about, and that's okay. Just want to mention it because it's a pretty significant investment that the community is making in itself. Again, saying yes, we're going to go forward. This is the kind of community we're going to have. We're going to have further growth, and we're going to get ahead of it. The city's also working actively with the state of Wisconsin on State Highway 35 and Division Street off-ramp, or junk handle, you might have heard it referred to. Certainly the worst intersection in the area, and it's one that needs improvement. The state isn't able to commit to investing in the full project, which would be adding another bridge and putting 4 lanes there, but we have worked with them to move up their schedule and get the exit ramp that will go through part of Hoffman Park down. Make a much safer project. So they're doing the property acquisition now for that. That's a project that we'll see here in the next couple of years. As you saw in the video, there's construction all over the place, really north, south, east, and west. Often developers or folks, and when we went through the exercise with the school district to kind of look at their student population, the question was, well, where is the city growing? You know, which direction should we put our money or our bets on? And really, if you look at the city, we've had growth in all directions. So we're happy to see that happening. Obviously, we have a lot of industrial commercial development on the north end of town. We've seen lots of investment in new and existing buildings along the North Main Street corridor. Anchor Paper, after looking all over the metro area, determined that the best place for them to build was in Whitetail Ridge Corporate Park. We're happy that they did that. We've added a new economic development specialist, Carrie Schreiner. Carrie, I think, was here. Carrie was part of our management team, and we were looking to kind of help keep the momentum going in economic development, and we were fortunate to fill it with a member of the team who was already familiar with some of our what we had going on. Carrie is going to continue to work with me, the River Falls Economic Development Corporation, and other stakeholders to keep shining a light on the features that we have here in River Falls and make this a great place to do business. We have a primary focus on business retention and expansion of existing businesses, and I hope that the existing businesses that are here, I saw Brent Gickham, I haven't seen him in a while, understand that our priority first is to try to help the businesses that are here grow and succeed as best we can. Now, the city doesn't have a tool for everything that a business would want to grow. Sometimes the businesses have things they need that have nothing to do with the city, and sometimes they have a lot to do with the city. For the ones that have a lot to do with us, we're going to put all of our effort in. For the ones that don't have anything to do with us, we're going to put a lot of effort in, because it's important for us to help you be successful when we can. So hopefully Carrie will be an addition, another resource for all of us to help keep the momentum going, including significant planning that'll start in haste now for Man Valley Corporate Park. We're really in a situation now where we have really limited ability to market additional lots in Whitetail and Sterling Ponds. We're starting to issue purchase options and work with companies on those last few lots, and so Man Valley is starting to come into play a lot sooner than I certainly would have predicted, although there was a wise community development director who told me as soon as you buy that, it's going to be something people want to get into. So we'll be looking at Man Valley Corporate Park development with our Planning Commission, the River Falls Economic Development Corporation, and others. We're working hard to increase housing stock. Last year, the city contracted with Maxfield Research. That's a private company that typically does a lot of market research for private developers. So a big housing developer will look to Maxfield to look at an area and say, what is the capacity? What kind of investment should we have? I know Councilmember Bierstead had suggested that the city do that themselves with the housing authority that he sits on, and so we did a partnership. And what we found out was not surprising to most people who live here. But I think the numbers are important to share. We have a shortage of, this was just based on current growth, which is 1 or 2% per year. So this isn't like we're gonna have a big bubble of growth. It's just kind of our incremental, happy-go-lucky River Falls growth. We have a 1,500 unit shortage between now and 2030. So that's 1,500 units of housing. So that's a pretty significant gap by any measure. It also showed that the rental housing is just not adequate at all to meet the demand going forward. Many of those of you who have hired people know, you know, they say, where can I get a house? And you say, I don't know if you say good luck, buddy, and pat them on the back, or, you know, but tell them to call Terry. But it's difficult, and the reason that's difficult is because a healthy turnover, just to get people to be able to go to a new apartment, leave their apartment, clean it out, get into the new one, somebody else come, that's 5% vacancy is required. Just to have a normal flow of the existing market to do that, and we're at 1% vacancy rate. So there isn't any kind of normalcy to that market. Now, the prices frankly have been held in check. Surprisingly, I think we don't have a lot of greedy landlords in town, and so people kind of look at the prices and go, well, they're not going up 20%, so it must not be a crisis, but there isn't the units, right? The vacancy is a real issue for us. So we're doing site prep and infrastructure all across the community. We have a number of people we're working with. It just takes a lot of time. You know, takes twice as long and costs twice as much to get projects done as what people think, and so they best of intentions to go on a project and then they run into a financing or something else. But we have 50 senior housing units that I expect to be on the market here soon next to City Hall. That developer is also going to do about a dozen market rate rental units in another building there. In Sterling Ponds, we opened 75 lots. Also in Sterling Ponds, we have a developer that's proposed 60 units of apartment and 5 12-unit buildings in Sterling Ponds across from the townhomes. In other parts of the city, we have 3 developers proposing multifamily housing. So there's 2 projects on South Main Street proposed, the McEwen block, or that's called, let's see, 700 South Main and 1300 South Main, which is what people think of as the River Falls Motel. Both of those sites have proposed multifamily, multiple building developments. And then there's also a large development proposed for 6th and Cemetery. So that's next to the ice rink or across from the high school. So there's a lot of things on the paper. You know, it obviously takes a lot of work to get that from vision to success. We also have some small annexations in the works. There's a just under 5-acre annexation planned at the corner of Cemetery Road and South Wasson, so the roundabout down by the high school. Again, that's likely to be a residential development, a multifamily residential. Tuesday night, the council also approved the city and town of Kinnickinnic cooperative plan. Both the town and the city have approved a cooperative plan that'll help us kind of set a vision for where the city will end, so to speak, and where the town will begin in the long term. And it lets both of those communities do some thoughtful planning and some growth. So we're really proud of what's been done there. That'll add, over time, allow the city to grow about 2.5 square miles or 1,600 acres through thoughtful planning. So it'll add some ability for some natural growth around the city. And Mayor Tolan, he wouldn't give up on that, even when I did. I said, I'm not going to another meeting with the town of Kinnickinnic. I've had enough meetings with other towns lately. And so he said, no, we're going to keep working on it. Councilmember Morissette, Odine, and Buddy Lucero just said, we're just going to keep working on that. And so that's a pretty impressive feat. Wisconsin law is not set up for cooperation between cities and towns. It just doesn't encourage cooperation, and so to get that done is really a testament to the people both in the town and the city to get that done. This past year, we're happy to support building projects on the campuses. Education is an important part of this community. Both of the K-12 system doing significant investments, but also both the college and the university making major investments in this community. Rodley Hall is a complete gut job. Those of you who went by it in the last number of months, saw no windows, no ceilings, everything kind of ripped out of there. That's really going to be like a brand spanking new building on campus, and that'll be one of the primary visitor center for the university. And it's kind of the coming together of plans. Again, the city, when they did Cascade, we said, all right, 2nd Street, 6th Street, these are going to be kind of these entrance corridors. And we went ahead and did 6th Street roundabout ahead of the student center, knowing that eventually Rodley Hall will become that, and then we'll have that natural entrance there for the campus. So we're going to continue to work with those partners. They're really important for us as a community to be successful, and also I think it's important to them that the community is successful. The university has a new science and technology building plan. That is an incredible investment. It's about $125 million for phase 1. So we're $1 billion city in property value, and that's a $125 million project. So we'll be talking to Representative Zimmerman and others. That is a major investment for this community, and it's a good kind of anchor. You want your major businesses, and in this case, the university, to have reasons to stay. When you invest $125 million in a facility, that's a good reason to keep your investments going here. So we're going to do everything we can to help them with that. Also, Tuesday night, the council approved an agreement with Ayers and Associates to look at a campus corridor. So we're going to look at 4 kind of micro neighborhoods around the college campus and the university campus, the Broadway area, West Cascade, East Cascade, and Central Cascade. So Central Cascade is Main to 6th Street. To how can we best plan and make that attractive in the long term for developers to look at these kind of fringes of the campus, and how can we make good transitions between the campus and the community, and in particular our Main Street downtown district to campus, and our entrance near the Moody's Corner with the college campus. How can we make that the most attractive for people to look at and invest in? Because those are areas that really are prime. If we have a 1,500 unit vacant or deficit, it's not going to be 3,000 square foot single family houses that fulfills that need. That won't work. So we need to find some places to have different housing styles, and a lot of those will fit really well in and around the downtown and in and around the campus. Last but definitely not least, I want to thank all those who've contributed to the Kinney Corridor project. It really was something to look at in amazement of how the community came together. Mostly we had people who got involved and stayed involved throughout the process, but we also saw a lot of people that came into the process and out of the process as they could. Given all of the commitments people have in the community, it was really good to see a wide variety of lots of different people involved, giving up nights or afternoons or weekends to look at that. So we couldn't have completed the plan. The council adopted the final plan. It sets the course for the next 20 years. I think I've been here now for about 10 years, and if you know anything about the city, we don't put plans on the shelf. So if we're going to do a plan, we're going to implement the plan. We need a lot of help with this plan. This plan is not something the city government will be able to implement and fulfill people's vision. A public-private partnership group is currently forming. They are going to be, I believe, the #1 driver in implementing the plan. They will likely be fundraisers in chief and cheerleaders in chief and connectors in chief. And if you have any interest whatsoever, despite what you think about your skills in fundraising or cheerleading or networking, this community is going to need all the help it can get to get this implemented. It's a very significant undertaking. It isn't something that pennies are gonna fall from heaven for us to take care of all the things we want to do. We're gonna really have to work as a community to do that. So their next meeting happens to be today at 4 o'clock in City Hall. If you want to come and be part of it, I'd encourage you to do that. If you can't make it to the meeting, but you have an interest, I can put you in touch with any of the community members that are kind of forming that group and getting going. But it really, truly will be a community-led effort, and it's key to our success. And those of you who have a heart in this community, I think if you have the time, which I know is difficult, because it's the same 20% people doing all of the work, it seems this would be an opportunity for you to get involved and really make a difference. That's about it for my prepared remarks. I want to thank you all again for the opportunity to speak. I can assure you that I'll do everything in my part to live the values that we put out, and I know that our staff is willing to do that also. We're going to have some challenges. I think we have a lot more opportunities in front of us in River Falls than challenges, and that's a good spot to be in. I think we ought to take advantage of this time in our life as a community where we have a lot more opportunities than challenges, because there are likely to be some times where we have more challenges than opportunities. Right now is time to seize the opportunities. I think that's a good time to be in, and appreciate everybody's help doing that. So with that, thank you, and I'd be happy to take any questions.